Hello, I'm Doug McConnell, and we've got some great discoveries for you out here along the open road.
We've all seen the devastation that catastrophic fires can cause. Well, meet the men and women who are tasked with preventing them and doing their best to keep us all safe. We'll learn what to do if you're caught in a fire, how to make the right decisions to make it out safely, as we take you along on a mock fire evacuation. And we'll get tips from an expert about how to keep your home and families fire safe. As the climate has changed and warmed, we've seen dramatic effects on our environment. One of the most concerning is the increase of catastrophic fires, and we've seen quite a few of them in recent years in California.
In 2017, the Tubbs Fire, the Glass Fire, the Paradise Fire, the fires in Southern California.
Our changing climate has transformed wildfires from seasonal occurrences to year-round threats, endangering lives, livelihoods, and ecosystems.
Some of these communities never really get back on their feet again. It changes the environment. You look at some of our Sierra forests and what catastrophic high-intensity fire has done to those. We won't see that landscape look anything like it did in our lifetimes.
The question is, what do we do to prevent these types of fires in the future? Well, part of the answer is we can't just rely on the firefighters to put them out. We all have to get involved and do our part to make our homes and communities safer for everyone.
Removing combustible materials from around houses. Reducing underbrush in our forests and open spaces. These are some of the small incremental changes that folks in Marin County are making that are having a big impact on reducing our vulnerability to wildfires.
We've got 45,000 backyards in Marin County, and each one of those has to do some scalable work that when you look at the magnitude of everyone doing it, really creates a resilient community.
Guiding this process of fire resiliency is an agency that was created in response to increasing nearby catastrophic fires called the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority. Jason Weber is the fire chief of the Marin County Fire Department.
The Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority was born out of the North Bay fires, and it really was focused on lessons learned and how do we prevent a catastrophic, devastating fire from occurring in Marin County.
The authority, tasked with creating and implementing a comprehensive plan to make Marin fire adapted, was created in 2020, funded by a parcel tax enthusiastically approved by over 70% of Marin County voters.
There wasn't a single jurisdiction in Marin County that had the overall responsibility for wildfire prevention. So you'd see fire prevention activities occurring and stopping at a city limit border or a jurisdiction's border. And really, the concept was wildfire knows no boundaries, either should we, and how do we do this better together?
The creation of the Fire Authority established a new way of approaching fire safety, focused on pre-fire prevention and partnering with the community.
So a big portion of the funding and a big portion of the energy goes into educating the public and assisting them in making their homes more defensible from fire.
This is a little dry here. We might want to consider getting some more water in this plant here, because you can see here's a lot of fuel right here that could ignite.
One of the main ways they accomplish this is with home inspections, conducted by fire prevention experts such as Kathleen Cutter with the Ross Valley Fire Department.
So a home inspection is where we, as defensible space inspectors, come to the home and we provide the resident with a defensible space inspection, which means we look at the house itself, we look for the materials, and then we also evaluate not only the home itself, but also the landscaping surrounding the home. And we're looking for vulnerabilities to that home that might make it more vulnerable to the threat of wildfire.
The goal is to inspect every single home in Marin.
We look at the eaves, we look at the gutter guards, we look at the material that the gutters are made out of, we look at windows, and basically any attached wooden decks.
When the inspection is complete, a digital report is delivered to the homeowner.
And it presents a report that details out defensible space, home hardening, things that they're required to do by law, as well as things that we recommend that they do to make their home safer from the threat of wildfire.
Kevin McCabe is a Marin County homeowner who's been through 2 home inspections.
The best part of the inspection is the education that you get from talking to these people. They're very educated. They understand what is needed to be done to make your home safer and your family safer. And to me, that's the exciting part.
And home inspections are just one piece of the fire resiliency puzzle. Extensive work is also going on in open spaces and forests surrounding Marin's homes and neighborhoods.
So in the early 1900s, when California started to develop and move into the wildlands that we now call the wildland-urban interface, really fire agencies went with a fire exclusion policy. That means all fires were supposed to be extinguished. At the advent of Smokey the Bear, fire became the enemy. And what we did was we removed fire from the landscape.
This decades-long practice of fire suppression has left our forests in a state of dangerous and unhealthy overgrowth.
We've got an enormous amount of vegetation, grasses to brush to trees, and that highly flammable brush section that can lead to extreme fires. Often those are non-native invasive species that are highly flammable, and that's the state we have in California.
Before the fire suppression policy, naturally occurring fires removed underbrush along with dead and dying trees, leaving behind strong, healthy forests.
Really, you had a nice, resilient forest that could handle low-intensity fire because it was seeing that every 15 years or so.
To return our forests to a more healthy state, the Fire Authority is employing a number of strategies.
So we're on Mount Tamalpais above the community of Fairfax, and this is a project that we're trying to mimic what conventional or fire historically has done to the landscape, and that's reducing those ground fuels, leaving a really healthy canopy.
Using hand tools and chainsaws, work crews are thinning and cutting what fires once removed.
So what you're seeing is the work that's been done by our fuels and fire crews to take a lot of this ground fuel that had a ton of dead and down material in it. They've gone in and cleared the understory, cleared the non-native vegetation.
So if a fire comes through here now, it's like you said, it's going to stay on the ground, it's not going to go up in the trees, it's not going to cause a catastrophic fire.
That's exactly the intent of this. It's really to create a more natural state.
Another method of clearing out overgrown understory is prescribed burns.
So the reintroduction of fire to the landscape is something we do with controlled burns or prescribed fire. So we treat an area so it'll sustain low-intensity fire for our control burns, and then we actively light fire that reduces and thins that landscape to a more healthy state.
And for overgrown spots hard to reach by humans, goat grazing crews are brought in to do the work.
They're very effective in lighter fuels and clearing and leaning out those seasonal grasses, some of the brush.
The sum total of all this work, increased fire resiliency and a healthier environment.
So basically by you doing the work, you're putting this forest back into a much more natural state.
Yeah, we work with our environmental community to make sure the work we're doing does return it to a more natural state.
Marin Conservation League kind of recognized the importance of the work and really supported the formation of the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority because we thought the work that they were doing would make the community safe but also make environmental improvements. So a lot of the material that they're removing is invasive plants like French broom or eucalyptus. Those are potential fire hazards, but by removing them, we're actually making an improvement in the environment. So there's pretty broad support for that among the environmental community.
Support for Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority is hard to argue with. Our tax dollars at work, improving our forest health and making our homes and communities safer for all. When we come back, learn what to do and what not to do if you're caught in a fire, and learn how to protect yourself, your home, and your family by making your residents more fire resilient.
OpenRoad is made possible by the generous support of our underwriters, dedicated to protecting our natural and historical treasures in the Bay Area and beyond. Additional support is provided by these institutions, also caring for our special environmental and cultural legacies and making them accessible to each and every one of us, now and for all time.
As we all know, fires have become bigger, more destructive, and more frequent in recent years. Luckily, in Marin, we haven't seen a catastrophic fire in a long time, but we should all be prepared if it did happen.
It just takes one spark, and we know in Marin County we're one spark away from a catastrophic fire occurring.
So you've just gotten the word that there's a wildfire nearby, and the authorities have given the order to evacuate. So what do you do? What do you need to know to get away from the fire to safety, especially if you live at the top of a hill like this spot?
Stay calm and don't panic. People make bad decisions when they're panicked. People make good decisions when they're calm.
Mark Brown is the executive officer with Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, and he's fought countless fires in his 30-plus years in the fire service.
In a location like this with the heavy fuel and how steep it is, the fire is going to start off on the ground and then it gets into the canopy and then it just starts roaring through the canopy. And people talk about it sounding like a freight train, and it really does sound like a freight train coming at you.
If you're caught in that predicament, it can be terrifying, but there are strategies you can take and things you can do to get out safely. So today, Mark is taking me through a mock evacuation, starting atop this long, narrow, and winding road and showing me what we all need to know to evacuate safely.
We really want you to stay in your car. That's the safest place for you to be. Wildland firefighters take refuge in their fire engines, and those fire engines aren't any different when it comes to that level of protection that they provide as your car. So we really want you to stay in your car and work your way downhill. We really want people to go downhill.
All right, so Mark, we're in the car, fire's upon us. We're gonna basically do a mock evacuation, and we're gonna act as if we've got an evacuation order. So what do we do?
Well, we knew that there was a fire nearby. We knew it was a high fire danger day, so our go bag was ready. And our car had a bunch of gas, or in this case, we had electricity, and I think that's important for people to think about now with EVs. Make sure your car is charged for evacuations as well. We put our go bag in the car, and we're leaving.
Away we go. All right, let's get out of here.
And we're gonna stay on paved roads, and we're gonna head downhill, and we're gonna go from areas of relative safety and scan our environment. Like I'm looking ahead right here, and I see that there's been vegetation management done up here. You can see all the ground fuels have been removed, so fire behavior in this area is going to be decreased. So I like where I'm at right now.
So as you're going, you were scanning the entire time, trying to get information. Is this a high fuel area, a low fuel area? Is this safe, unsafe? So you're calculating like almost every step of the way.
Exactly.
Mark says it's important to pay close attention to potential evacuation routes when fire is not present.
And one of the things I want people to get used to doing is thinking about this on their drive to and from their homes every day.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this just during a fire. You could do it before a fire.
Another important tip, go slow.
You'll notice I'm going super slow too. And to me, slow is fast during an evacuation, especially when we have turns like this where you might have to do a 3-point turn.
In most cases, even if the road is blocked by traffic or a road obstruction, Mark stresses that staying in your car is almost always your best bet. But if you do have to exit your car, there are places that are safer than others if you know what to look for.
All right, so big retaining wall.
Yeah,
Good.
This is a massive retaining wall, but let's say we were talking about a tree falling down, and you needed to hole up at a place where you could be safe.
So in other words, a tree falls down, blocks the road, you can't get by.
And so now you need to wait for the tree to get removed, and you need to find a nice safe place. Well, retaining walls like this, even if they're not this tall, they affect the wind.
Yeah.
And so the wind wants to go up and over this. And so it leaves like an eddy of air down here. And so that actually is a pretty safe place. So if you bring your car, just like this car is, tuck it up against the retaining wall.
Oh, okay, so your goal is, again, stay in the car.
Stay in the car.
Park up nice and close to this. And basically you want to park next to things that aren't going to burn big cement retaining wall, not going to burn. This is a pretty safe spot.
Yeah.
Other areas of safety can be found if you understand some basic fire behavior, how fire might move through an area. And Mark says pay close attention to the curves in the road.
There's two types of turns I really want our residents to be aware of. What we call an in turn or an inside turn or an out turn. An inside turn is when we're turning in the direction of the downslope.
And why is that important? Why is that something that people should be aware of?
So this turn right here is going to be a perfect example of it. So we are making an inside turn. And as we go down here, we can see that this is where the fire is really going to want to come up this canyon through here.
All right, so what do we got?
So this is really, in my opinion, a nasty in-turn.
Okay.
You know, we parked there. We definitely don't want to park there in a real fire.
And you say nasty in-turn because this is where the fire will funnel.
The fire behavior through here is going to be intense. You can see how heavy the fuel loading is.
Yeah.
And you can see how steep it is, but also how narrow it is.
So this really is like the worst place to be, at the top of this.
Right. The fire intensity coming through here is going to be crazy.
So basically, if I'm understanding correctly, if we drive up on this, there's fire, stop, wait, let it burn through, and then go.
And it'd be you'd be amazed. All the energy wants to go this way. Literally 30 feet back there, you're safe. It's going to be scary.
Yeah, I'll bet.
But you'll be safe there.
Yeah.
And Mark knows this from real-life experience. He's driven through dozens of fires and used these tactics to safely get out of all of them. Here, in actual footage from the 2018 campfire in Paradise, Mark approaches an intern engulfed in flames, so he calmly and slowly backs up to safely wait it out. Other areas of safety are spots where there's a lot of concrete and asphalt that can't burn, such as intersections.
All right. Intersection
here, you see two roads coming together. You also have driveways.
So why is this good?
So fortunately, asphalt's not going to burn. Again, if there's a place where you have to pause because of fire conditions, tree goes down, power lines are down or whatever, this is a great place to wait until it's time to leave again.
Okay.
One last tip Mark offers is to also pay attention to what you wear before getting in your car to evacuate.
You should be in sturdy shoes, long pants, not shorts, long sleeve jacket or something. Cotton would be best. And if you have some type of head covering, that would be good too.
Okay.
With Mark's guidance and expertise, I now feel much more informed and aware of the potential dangers should I find myself in a fire. And after our slow, careful descent, we finally make it down the mountain to safety.
Mark, that was a fantastic day. I learned a ton. Thank you for showing me the ropes. I feel like now I can get out of trouble if I'm ever in a fire safely. We made it down the hill safely to the flats of Courmayeur, so cheers.
Cheers to you.
Yeah, great day. Thank you.
My pleasure.
When we come back, we'll get tips from an expert about how to make your residence fire safe to protect yourself, your family, and your home. The objective of Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority is to make Marin more fire safe and to prevent catastrophic fires from happening here. To achieve this, it will require all of us Marin residents to help out and do our part to make each of our homes more resistant to fire.
And I have with me Todd Lando. Todd is a battalion chief with the Central Marin Fire Department, and you are here because you're going to teach us everything we need to know about how to be fire safe in our own residences, right?
I am.
All right, so let's start with, you told me about situational awareness. What exactly is that?
Situational awareness is critical to saving lives during wildfire, and it really just has to do with paying attention to your surroundings. Focus on the weather. Deadly wildfires happen under very specific weather scenarios. The Weather Service usually issues a red flag warning. When that happens, you really need to focus on what's outside. Use your senses, your eyes, your ears, blows your nose, if you smell smoke, if you hear sirens, if you see something out of place, that's a sign to get ready and leave.
All right, makes sense. All right, now personal preparedness. Again, explain what that is.
This is a simple one too in a lot of ways. Preparedness means things you've done in advance. It's critical to have a go bag. You can't pack a go bag once the fire starts. It needs to be done long before a fire starts. And in that go bag, I want people to think about their personal safety first. I want you to be prepared with things like goggles, a hat to keep embers off of your head and your hair, face mask, an N95 mask so that you don't breathe embers. You should have no skin uncovered when you're evacuating from a wildfire. Things like a pair of heavy leather gardening gloves can make a huge difference for somebody that needs to move burning debris out of a roadway to continue their evacuation.
Yeah. Okay, great. Next one, home hardening. Talk me through that.
Home hardening is the choice of materials and design in a house that protects it from embers first during a wildfire and then also protects from heat and flame. Choosing fiber cement siding over wood siding, choosing a non-combustible roof like tile roofs, concrete tiles, metal roofing, or composition shingles.
Okay, so basically you're trying to get rid of as much combustible material as possible.
Exactly.
And the last thing you're going to talk to us about is defensible space around the home, right?
Defensible space extends from the walls of your house at least 100 feet. It's the landscaping, it's your yard, it's the environment around your house, and that's where we need to make sure that you store nothing combustible. We need to choose the right plants that won't ignite from embers during a wildfire. We need to choose the best materials for ground cover. We shouldn't be using wood mulch within 5 feet of the house. We should choose instead things like decomposed granite or gravel immediately adjacent to the house.
Okay, and if you live in an area that has like wildlands behind it, you need to keep all the underbrush down, right?
Grasses need to be cut to 4 inches or less. Trees should be limbed up at least 6 feet off of the ground, and absolutely no dead vegetation within 100 feet of any building, and that'll make a huge difference during a wildfire.
All right, great, Todd. These are great suggestions. I got to go home and get to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
For information about Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority or anything featured in tonight's show, go to nbcbayarea.com/OpenRoad.
OpenRoad is made possible by the generous support of our underwriters, dedicated to protecting our natural and historical treasures in the Bay Area and beyond. Additional support is provided by these institutions, also caring for our special environmental and cultural legacies and making them accessible to each and every one of us, now and for all time.
Well, that's our show. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Doug McConnell, and we'll see you next time right here with more discoveries along the open road.